So welcome back, and until now in the last video actually we have covered the queen and the king's movement, which I feel the easy thing. So now in today's video I'm just going to cover up last two pieces. One is the knight and second is the pawn. So once we finish the knight and the pawn's movement, I think we have done all the piece movement remaining, all the piece movement required for learning a chess game. So let's start. So basically now, until now we have done the piece movement, like piece movements like rook's movement, bishop's movement, queen's movement, king's movement. So all these things we have already done. So in this video basically we are going to just finish the last two pieces remaining, and that is one, the knight, and the second one is the pawn. So let's start now, starting with the knight. Some people basically think that this piece is little difficult for movement. Actually it's not, but yeah, in the basic level some people might be considering the knight as little difficult piece to move as compared to other pieces. uh, Maybe, but I don't feel so. Okay, so let's just focus, like you just have to understand the concept for the night. And uh, for learning the night, I usually follow 0 1 2 and half rule, like 0 1 2 and half. So this kind of rule we have to do. For example, now suppose I'm arranging the knight, or I have arranged the knight in the position on the e4 square, and if you want to move the knight, then let's consider that the knight can go upside, downside, right side and left side. But the knight cannot move same as a rook. Means it's not possible to just move up, down, right, left like a rook. So knight has some different kind of thing we have to remember for the knight's movement. So basically let's try to understand the knight's movement in the upward direction. So uh, always consider 0 for the square where the knight is standing. So the knight will be like, let's now, as we have decided to just find out the movement for the knight in the upward direction. So basically you can consider 0 for the square, and 0 1 and 2 will be in the straight line. So 0 1 and 2 will be in the straight line, and half will be sideways. So basically in this position the knight will be able to go on the d6 or on f6. Means it is allowed, basically means knight can directly travel in these two squares. Just in the beginning, for understanding purpose, you just need to remember like 0 1 2 and half. Otherwise once you start understanding the knight, you don't even need to just think like 0 1 to half or something. You will be able to move the knight directly to anywhere you want, or to anywhere to any square you want it to go. So basically just now I just told you how you can move the knight in the upward direction. Like you can call 0, then for the square where the knight is standing, then the next will be 1. I'll just make it red, basically it will be little better. So 0 1 2 and half will be on sideways on both the sides. So this is the way you can just move the knight in the upward direction. And now the same way you can just consider it in the bottom, like in the downside or in the downward direction. So here if the knight is standing on the e4 square, then you can just consider 0 for the knight where it is standing, then 1 will be here as we are finding the squares uh, on the downward side. So 0 1 2. Okay, again I'm making it black. So starting again, 0, then 1, then 2, and half will be sideways. So if the knight is standing on e4 in the downward side, the knight can go on f2 or on d2 square. Like in the upside, it can go on f6 or on d6 square. So that's the movement for the knight in the upward and the downward direction. Even the same way you can just find out the squares on the right and left. So basically if the knight is standing on the e4 square, it can go on f4, like again 0 for the square where the knight is standing, then 1, then 2, and half will be on sideways. So this is the way you can just move your knight on the right side in this position. Again in the same position you can just try to move the knight on the left side as well. So again 0 for the square where the knight is standing, then 1, then 2 in the straight way or in the uh, straight line, and half will be sideways. So that's it. This is the way you have to move the knight. Now just for understanding, I'll just show you some other position based upon the knight's movement. So let's consider here the knight is standing on the c5 square, and you have to find out all the possible squares where the knight can go. So in this position, as your knight is standing on the c5 square, the knight can go on this one, like d7, on b7. It can go in the downward side on b3. It can go on d3. Now let's find out the right and left side. So it can go on e6, e4, a4, and a6. So that's it. That's how you can just find out the knight. Now obviously in the beginning you will not be able to get the squares like this, but in that case you can just find out the, means you can just try to find the squares in the way I just now explained few minutes ago, like 0 for the square where the knight is standing, then 1, then this will be 2, and half will be here and here. The same way you can just go at in the downside, like 1, 2, and half on the sideways. So I don't feel it's very difficult for you to understand. If you feel it is difficult, you can just try to start the video again, and then you will be able to just understand, and you can see the same thing multiple times. So yeah, that's the way you just have to move the knight. For the knight, I just want to give you around one or two puzzles which I feel will help you to improve your knight understanding. For example, now let's consider the knight is standing on the a1 square in this position, and I want that knight to go on the b1 square. Now obviously the knight cannot go like this. It is not possible to kill the pawn like this with the knight. So if you want to take your knight on the b1 square, there is a condition that you must be able to capture that pawn on the third move. So you are just allowed to move your knight uh, 3 times, and on the third move the knight should be able to, or the knight must be able to kill the pawn. And basically there are two ways to, or two different paths are there to achieve this thing. So you just try to find out, and you can write down the answer in the comment box. So yeah, that's the way you just have to move the knight. If you want, I'll just give you one more puzzle for the knight's movement. Let's say now this time I'm arranging the pawn a little bit away from the knight, and you can just try to find out three different paths in this position uh, to capture the black pawn. Yeah, in this one there is no limitation for the move, like you can take your knight or you can move your knight any number of times you want, but you need to find out three different ways. So that answer also you can write down in the comment box. So yeah, that's the way you can just find out the answers for these two puzzles. Now uh, let's go for the next one, and the next piece is like a pawn. So let's try to understand the pawn in just 1 or 2 minutes. And okay, all right, I'll just arrange the entire chessboard. So just give me a second. Basically, whenever you're actually trying to move the pieces, or when you're trying to learn movement for the pieces, as I always say, like, you don't have to take stress if you don't understand some of the things. Basically, it's very simple to understand. It's not something which is very difficult, and the thing which you can't understand at all. It's nothing like that. But if you feel like you're not understanding something, or if you're not getting answers for some puzzles, I feel like that's okay, because ultimately when you start playing games, you will start doing the same things again and again in the game, and automatically you will start learning it. So you don't have to be like precise in all the things when you are learning. Slowly, when you start playing games, automatically your improvement will start what I'm saying, like you will start growing, okay, in chess, obviously. So yeah, now let's coming back to the point of pawn movement. I have arranged the entire chessboard, like here all the pieces are arranged on the board, but we are not going to focus on these pieces at the or in the first rank and on on the eighth rank. So we are just currently in this video, we are just going to focus on the pawns movement. So let's try to understand. uh, we can just consider the second rank as a starting rank for white pawns, and seventh rank as a starting rank for the black pawns. Okay, so now how can the pawns move? So basically just try to understand, when your pawn is on the starting line, or on the starting rank, then uh, the pawn can actually go one or two steps uh, as per the person's will. So basically, if suppose you are playing from the white side, white can just move its pawn one step or two steps as per the person or the player wants to move it. After that move, suppose black side, again, as we are just learning the pawn, so I'll just move the pawns here in this position. Black again has some sort of decision to make here. It's not needed that first move you have to do just two steps. Pawn can go one step as well or two steps as well. Okay, so it is dependent upon the person's will. When this option or of one or two steps is basically available when the pawn is in the starting rank. So here black can also move one or two steps. But now again, suppose white plays this pawn here, black plays this pawn here, and now if white wants to move this pawn two steps ahead, then this is not allowed. Now why this is not allowed? Because this pawn is not on the starting rank. This pawn has moved one step already. So when your pawn is not on the starting rank, then the pawn can move just one step in the forward direction. So it is basically about just the movement, like how you have to move the pawn. Yeah, one more thing or one more point I want to add up in this. Once you take your pawn ahead, once you take your pawn ahead, you cannot take it back. So this is a difference between other pieces and the pawn. Like once you take your bishop outside, if you want, you can just take it back. If you are taking your queen out, again you can just take it back. So basically all other pieces you can just take them out, again you can take them back if you want. But the same thing is not true with the pawn. So when you're moving the pawns, you need to understand that once you move them, you will never be able to take the same pawn backside. So that's very important. And now the second point, like how the pawn captures, this is again a difference, like this is again a different thing with as compared to the other pieces. Like when the pawn wants to kill someone in the opposite in the opponent's side, then the pawn will not be able to kill in the straight line. So this is not possible. So if this pawn wants to kill someone or wants to capture someone from the black side, then black must be having any of its pieces on these two squares. So if anyone from the black side, suppose if it comes on either e5 or on c5, this d4 pawn will be able to kill it. For example, if black plays this move, then white pawn can kill the black pawn. So this is the way you can just move your pawn. And I feel like I think like this much is important for understanding the pawn. Yeah. There is one more thing I'm going to explain, that is the pawn promotion. That thing I will be explaining you in the next after next few videos, maybe while we are going to learn the n passant rule. That is also regarding the pawn, but that is little different. So I'm not going to cover that thing in this video. But yeah, we will be learning that in the next one, in the next few. So yeah, this is how you just have to move the pawns. Now let's just recap quickly. So when you're moving the pawns, basically pawns can move only straight line, like in the straight direction, straight line in the forward direction, sorry. So you just have to move the pawn in the straight line in the forward direction. When the pawn is on the starting rank, it can go one or two steps. uh, if the pawn wants to kill someone, then pawn cannot kill in the front side. It can just kill, or it can just capture the opponent's pieces in the diagonally forward direction in just one step. Means it cannot capture like a bishop by moving three or four squares at the same time. Pawn can capture someone in just one square away. Like if someone comes here, yeah, then white pawns will be able to kill or capture it. So yeah, that's the way you just have to move the pawns. So in this video, I have just tried covering how to move the pawn and how to move the knight. So I hope you are understanding what I'm trying to explain you regarding the chess. Yeah, obviously I think the piece movement is over in this video. So from the next video I'm just going to explain how you have to arrange the chessboard, and that's a very simple rule. After that, I'm going to explain you regarding the castling. The next video will be about the en passant. So yeah, I'm just trying to cover up some important rules of chess, and then after that we will be just playing some chess games, solving some puzzles. So we will be doing some interesting things. So all right, so now here we are going to stop here for the day, and again, bye bye. Have a nice day. Thank you.